system.
People see these films about the U.S. Mint and the government printing office, and they see these sheets of dollar bills being run off the printing presses. And so they think it's the government that's printing money. But this is not the real source of money. The real source of money is banks.
The banks have a complete monopoly on the money creation process. So the public are not actually involved in it at all, directly or indirectly.
The Federal Reserve is a private institution owned by commercial banks who are members of the Federal Reserve System, which includes all the nationally chartered banks.
Most people don't realize that the Federal Reserve is a private corporation and is for profit, and in fact, Federal Reserve, it's neither federal and it's not a reserve.
In 1910, a group of top American bankers met on Georgia's Jekyll Island to discuss ways of stabilizing the country's banking system. Congress passed the Federal Reserve Act in 1913, giving this private corporation a monopoly over issuing the nation's money supply. How then did the power to issue something as fundamental as money fall into private hands?
Initially, you can think a bank was about storing people's gold. So you come in, you store your gold at the bank, and the banker gives you a gold certificate and says, you have such and such amount of gold in my bank. Now, the basis of the paper money systems was when you could start trading those pieces of paper.
Let's say you have some gold that you want to keep safe. You put it in a bank, and the bank gives you a paper receipt you can redeem later for your gold. You can now trade that piece of paper in place of the gold, as long as others are also able to redeem it for your gold. The good name of the bank on the paper note assures people that behind the piece of paper is a piece of gold waiting to be redeemed. Soon, as the people's confidence in the bank grows, rather than cashing in the receipt, the person receiving the paper simply trades it again. The paper may end up being traded many times before being redeemed for the original gold in the bank.
And banks discovered that when people started paying each other with claims to the coins in the bank's vault rather than taking the coins out, that the bank didn't really need to keep all the coins in the vault in order to have enough to actually pay people who did come and want the coins.
The banker realizes nobody's coming to take the gold. Gold's just sitting there. So instead of just putting out one piece of paper that says, you know, there's such and such amount of gold, you can put out a lot of pieces of paper given the fact that nobody is coming and taking the gold. And you can lend money. And the basis of that loan is the trust that people have that if they want to come and get the gold will be there.
Money in the bank is not actually wealth.
The only thing that makes that system work is the fact that nobody actually does come to get the gold. Now, if everybody said, you know what, I'm going to go get my gold at the bank. If everybody went and got it, there wouldn't be enough gold for everybody.
You often had bank runs and bank panics. When people would have a lack of confidence in a particular bank, they would take those banknotes to the bank and demand their gold and silver. And with fractional reserves, that bank would quickly run out of the reserve metal and have to close its doors.
So that's fractional reserve banking. The coins in the vault are a fraction of the claims that could be made for them.
The reason the bank did it is because they were making money off of earning interest, off of those loans that were promises that there was gold in the bank.
As people's confidence in the bank and its receipts continues to grow, banks soon discover an unexpected way to earn profit. A bank can print a receipt for gold that does not even exist. They can then loan that receipt to someone on the condition that they pay it back with interest. While the bank takes a risk by having less gold than the outstanding receipts, there is an almost unlimited potential to make profit off charging interest on loaning gold it does not even have. If people catch on that there isn't enough gold to redeem their receipts, they will all go to the bank at once to get their gold. If this happens, there will be a bank run. The bank will fail because it is caught without enough gold to back up its receipts. In 1934, in an attempt to prevent further bank failures, a series of banking reforms slowly took away people's ability to trade their paper money in for gold or silver. In 1971, Richard Nixon removed the last vestiges of this convertibility. Today, our money can no longer be redeemed for gold or silver to repay the principal. Bank loans are all made on the condition that people pay both the principal and the interest the bank charges. However, money can only be issued as principal. No one creates the interest, so the amount of debt owed is actually far greater than the amount of money there is to repay it. When a dollar is loaned into the economy, it begins a loop. Joe the farmer gets a loan from the bank and pays Tom for fixing his tractor. Tom pays Jane for bread at the local bakery, and Jane in turn buys the wheat from Joe, who can now repay the loan. The problem is, Joe owes the bank interest on top of the principal. In order to avoid losing his property to the bank, Joe must go find other money making its own loop in the economy. He can now repay his loan with the interest, but the people in that loop are left without their money. They still need money to facilitate their exchanges and to repay the loan that issued the money they had been using. The only place they can get it is from other such debt loops. Since all money has an interest price tag attached, there will never be enough money to repay all the debt owed to banks. Therefore, some people will always have to go bankrupt or have their property repossessed by the bank.
It's crazy. Sometimes it worries me because, what if there was like a collective understanding about how phony the money is when it comes down to it? What would people do? Would they riot in the streets?
Who's propagating the illusion behind the money? That just pisses me off, actually.
Everybody, forever. But if you start to have to pay for it with national money that's scarce, that's making it work into a job, that is going to be another question. Because someone has to borrow that money in order to pay you.
As we get rid of more and more and more jobs, we may have to get to a point where we redefine the meaning of work. And you're going to have to find other ways for people to support themselves.
Work, there's an infinity of things we can do. We can make every city, every garden, every house a paradise. There's an infinity amount of things to be done to reach there. Don't expect to be paid for it in national money. Don't get that idea. So we have to find another way, what people can do in a post-industrial age. Complementary currency, in my definition, is an agreement in a community to use something, just about anything that they can agree on, as a medium of exchange. That's other than national conventional money. The first thing that one has to understand about complementary currencies is that there are as many different rules as you can want to invent. In national money, there's only one. Okay? That's basically the same worldwide. In complementary currencies, different communities agree on different rules. It is complementary because they do not replace national money.
A local currency is something that is issued at the time that it's backed by goods and services in our community. And when people advertise in the River Hours Trade Directory, they actually sign a commitment that says that they are backing in whole or in part that currency with their goods or services that they're offering, and that they're also agreeing to accept in whole or part some local currency. So when you get River Hours, it's backed by people in your community, and that's tangible.
Local currency is a way of encouraging people, inducing people to spend locally. And it's also a way to help people to support one another in the local economy when they maybe do not have any money.
It's been probably a third to half of my income. Whether it was working for people, or just the advertising in the directory and getting my name out, or word of mouth has been huge.
their offerings, their inventory. The money often hits their cash register and then heads straight out of town to the central office in Ohio or wherever. River Hours is hopelessly and happily bound to our community. That value always remains here, and I think people understand that.
Alan Watts in the 50s wrote a critique of the Depression where he said, look, the economy went flat because everybody found there was no money. There was plenty of work needed doing, plenty of people wanted work, plenty of goods in the stores, but nobody could afford them, nobody could pay for them because we had no money. And he said this was like going to build a building. And you've got the materials, you've got the tools, you've got the skills, you've got the drawings, you've got the planning permission, you've got the weather, you've got the will. No inches. Damn. We had a bunch of inches, but then, big project on the other side of town, they're using all the inches. We don't have any inches, because all the inches went over there. I guess we're out of work. Well, that's exactly what we do with money.
That's my clearest realization, is that there is plenty of work that needs to be done in this valley. And there are all kinds of people who need work to make ends meet. They need work. They could contribute to the community. There's all kinds of things to do. So we have the work that needs to be done. We have the workers. What is it that's missing? You know, pieces of paper that say, I'll do this for, you know, in exchange for other goods.
Once they get the concept that, you know, we can spend the money here and it stays here and it helps out our school system and our children and our future and everything, people really get a hold of it again. And the river hours and all that, that's all stuff that need to keep working hard at.
I think it's exciting. I think River Hours isn't going anywhere. You know, I think it's only going to continue to bring people together and to get people talking. I'd like to say right now that it's a huge economic impact, but that's not the biggest impact of River Hours at this point. The biggest impact is people starting to shift into recognizing and realizing that local communities can become more self-sufficient in every way.
River Hours print their currency. And as soon as you print a currency, you have, in fact, in my opinion, created a problem, because you created a limited supply currency, which means there's only so much currency as there are notes in circulation. And then you end up with the same problem you have if you have something like a currency backed by gold, which is there's only so much gold. A mutual credit system, there's unlimited currency available in potential, and that's one of its great strengths.
In a mutual credit system, each person has an account, and at some times your account may be positive, at other times your account may be negative. Now, it's this allowance for a negative balance that is the fundamental feature of a credit clearing system. This negative balance represents credit that's been extended to you by the rest of the community.
My name is Francis Ailey. I'm the president of Fourth Corner Exchange. We are a mutual time exchange, mutual credit exchange system. We have over, as of today, 650 members, and about 400 of those are in Bellingham.
I'm Jean Brecken. I offer reading out loud, singing, playing the piano, word processing, writing, and office work.
Hi, I'm Lynette Allen, and I'm offering websites, design and development.
One of my favorites is I have this great apple tree, so I have a lot of apples that I have sold for time dollars and changed a 4-year-old's concept of where apples come from. They don't come from the store, they come from a tree, and Grandma was very happy that he learned that.
In a case of mutual credit systems, the rule is, the game is, I do something for you, I get a credit, you have a debit. The sum of our two is 0. So, in other words, net, we've done nothing. But I have a credit and you have a debit.
I, as a seller, may allocate to you some good or service that you need at the time. I get a credit to my account, you get a debit to your account. Your debit means that you owe something to the community of traders in our credit clearing circle. My credit balance means that the circle owes something to me.